This is part 2 of reading the report Operation Bluebird, a case study of torture and extrajudicial executions in Manipur, published by amnesty.org on 31st October 1990. It's a public document, but if you would like to listen to what we have read earlier, please look up for the part 1. We are going to continue reading from section 2.3.4. Detention condition, the denial of medical care and related deaths in detention. Medical care was reportedly denied to some of the torture victims. For example, the secretary of the village authority in Khongdei, Simpung, reported the headman and other severely beaten persons of the Khongdei Simpung are struggling themselves to move from the beaten bed, but the military officers are not giving permission to get themselves medically treated. Villagers who have become ill because of the bad conditions in which they were held also complained they were denied medical treatment. The detainees were held in the open without protection against the weather, without sanitary facilities, often without food or water, and the sick were reportedly denied medicines. One woman who works as a teacher in the Oinam High School described the condition this way. The army poured into the village and herded up all the villagers at the camp. Every day we were herded at the ground nearby the camp, since early morning till 8 p.m. in the night without food. Since it was a rainy day, we had to stand, all our clothes and body completely wet, forced to sit on the muddy grounds, sometimes at the mercy of the scorching sun, that we were not allowed to move even and had to defecate before the public. All the sick persons had to sleep on the muddy ground without water, food, and medicines. Our complaints and prayer for mercy on the sick persons was retorted with a sharp reply that the price of lost one rifle is far more greater than 10 lives of villagers, and there is no question of giving medicine to the sick persons. According to the sworn statement of Miss K. Pauthingla, a student from Khongdei Khuman, many children fell sick. During the confinement inside the church building, many people suffered from various infectious diseases such as dysentery, diarrhea, acute fever, whooping cough, and so on because of the unhygienic environment. No medication was allowed to administer by the Assam Rifles personnel, and as a result of it, many children, mostly below the age of 2 years, became very sick during those days. Inside the church building, it was in fact a very horrible sight as I had ever seen. Several villagers apparently died because of the conditions of detention and the denial of medical care. In Oinam, 4 children between the age of 9 and 17 months, L. Martin, T.H. Tack, S. Henry, and D. Pausengla, who were exposed to heavy rains and sun, received no medical attention and died of diarrhea and fever. The number of children dead later rose to 9. According to a letter written to the Chief Minister of Manipur from the villagers of Oinam, 3 more people are said to have died at Ngamju village through lack of medical assistance. Similarly, at Khongdei Khuman, an old man of 70, H. Khamba, and a young woman of 18, K. Ningtharwan, died after becoming seriously ill in detention. Deliberate killings following torture. There is a strong evidence that at least 11 and possibly 15 men were deliberately killed by the Assam Rifles after torture. They were P. Sanglong, chairman of Oinam Village Authority, and B. W.A. and T.H. Wakhau, Guanburas of Oinam, P.L. Ring, headmaster of Oinam High School, L. Zamo, headman of Kondai Kuman, K. Sunai, R. Kova, and M. Isau, all Gonburas of Kondai Kuman, R. Mathotmi, member of the Ngari Village Authority, P. Rangkiwa, Ngari Village headman, N. Thawa, member of Kongdai Kuman Village Authority. Less clear were the circumstances in which S. Sosang, a farmer from Namzu village, Mr. Seva of Thingpa Kunau, Mr. Loko of Mao Budunamai, and Mr. Sangdua of Oinam village were shot, but they may also have been victims of torture and extrajudicial execution. See Appendix D. Several of the victims were elderly men over 60 years of age. The Assam Rifles maintained that these men were either killed in encounters between them and the NSCN and that they were shot while trying to escape, but eyewitnesses have testified that they saw 11 of these men in custody with severe injuries apparently caused by torture. One woman testified that her husband, whom the Assam Rifles said was shot while running away, was so badly tortured that he was unable to walk. Others testified that the men the Assam Rifles claimed to have shot in an armed encounter were on the day of their death taken away by the Assam Rifles, who had to drag them out of the army camp because the men were unable to sit up by themselves. One witness said he saw 3 of the men being taken away by the Assam Rifles at night, one by one, to a lonely spot in the jungle. He said on each occasion he heard gunshots several minutes later, and the Assam Rifles returned without the men they had taken away. This witness said he himself had in fact escaped and so survived being shot. Another witness said he found the body of the victim, whom the Assam Rifle claimed was shot, while guiding the NSCN, lying on the ground with hands tied behind his back and eyes blindfolded. The eyewitness accounts corroborate each other. In a memorandum to the central government, the Chief Minister of Manipur, on behalf of the Council of Ministers, questioned the Assam Rifles' account of the killing in the following terms. After the incident of 9 July 1987, as many as 14 civilians lost their lives. The Assam Rifles alleging their involvement in NSCN activities. Out of these 8 persons were allegedly killed in encounters, and the rest while making an attempt to escape from their custody. It is not, however, understood as to how could there be an encounter with the security forces in an area in which large-scale operations are being conducted. Similarly, it is not clear as to how the arrested people could make an attempt to escape from army custody. The post-mortem reports of the deceased bodies will reveal the real cause of death of these people. The presumption could be that they were tortured while in custody and subsequently, with a view to cover up the crime, shot dead, alleging fake encounters and or attempt to escape from their custody. To demonstrate its concern for victims, the Manipur government decided to award 5,000 rupees to the relatives of the 14 men who had been killed during the combing operation. Telegraph, Calcutta, 21st November 1987. The Guwahati High Court also rejected the Assam Rifles' version of the killing in 2 cases. On 12 July 1988, Justice Hansaria of the Guwahati High Court said there was No evidence to support the Assam Rifles defense claim that Mr. BWA and Mr. PL Ring were collaborators of the NSC, and he awarded damages to the victim's family in a civil claim brought by the CLA-HRO. He placed responsibility for their killing separately with the Assam Rifles. He ordered in his judgment that each of the families of the deceased men be paid 20,000 rupees compensation. This takes us to the case of two persons who lost their lives in encounter with the underground. We shall confine our attention in this regard to BWA and PL Ring. About these two persons, it has been stated that they died in encounter with the undergrounds when they were moving with the Assam Rifles to recover arms and ammunition from the hideouts of the undergrounds. This shows that these two people had met their end while trying to help the Assam Rifles and were moving with them to recover arms and ammunition from the hideouts of the undergrounds. It has been submitted by Sri Chetia Defense for Assam Rifles that these two persons were close collaborators of NSCM. We have no material to satisfy us in this regard. This has not been averred even in the affidavit of the Assam Rifle. May we point out here that after relying on the aforesaid decision, People's Union for Democratic Rights, the State of Bihar, AIR 1987 SC 355, this court has granted compensation amounting to Rupees 20,000 to each of the family members of the deceased person who has met their end in the police firing in Civil Rule 9, number 167/88, which was disposed of on 9/6/88. We shall award the same amount to the family of the aforesaid two deceased. Justice Hansaria ordered the central government to pay 75% of the cost and the state government to pay 25%, stating that we have saddled the state also with liability because it cannot shed its responsibility in matters completely, as after all the Assam Rifles was called to aid it. The Indian Post reported in 1987 that according to senior police officers investigating the encounters, they were nothing but cold-blooded shooting of villagers. The account of the so-called encounters furnished by the Assam Rifles were flimsy, said the police. The NSCN police claim had fled the area shortly after the Oinam raid, dispersing either in the countryside or had left presumably for the headquarters in the Somra tract around Burma. Hence, encounters were ruled out, the police had said in its investigation report. Amnesty International has copies of 9 post-mortem reports carried between 3 and 5 of the time of death. They showed that 5 men, Mr. Lokho, M. Isau, R. Kova, R. Mathotmi, and K. Sunai were shot from the back. In the cases of Mr. Lokho and R. Kova, the trajectory of the wound track were markedly upward. 2 were shot from the front, B. Wa and PL Ring, and 1 P. Rankiwo shot in the head. The body of Thawa shot ligature marks consistent with hanging. On examination of the reports by the forensic expert at Amnesty International's request, no conclusive evidence was found to explain the circumstances of their death. For example, the post-mortem report on the body of Mr. Lokho showing a bullet part which was markedly upward was found to be consistent with him, Lokho, having been shot when running away with his body bent low. Alternatively, he might have been kneeling on the ground with his head bent forward and there shot from behind. There was a considerable difference in the degree of detail and comprehensiveness of the report, making analysis difficult. There was a complete lack of any description of injuries on the bodies other than gunshot wounds and the litigation marks. And in the case of N. Thawa, that the tongue was missing. In the case of N. Thawa, that the tongue was missing. However, this did not exclude the possibility that marks of injury had gone unnoticed and unrecorded. Bruises and other minor surface injuries to the bodies are obscured by the changes of decomposition, and unless a careful autopsy is performed towards finding such injuries, they can be easily overlooked. There is, however, strong evidence from witness that these men were first tortured and then killed by Assam Rifles. These testimonies are given in part below, 2.3.51. P. Sanglong, T.H. Wakau, B. Wa, P. L. Ring, and L. Zamo. P. Sanglong and T.H. Wakau were reportedly arrested on 10 July 1987 and shot on 28 July 1987. According to the Assam Rifles, both were shot while running away from the security forces. In his court testimonial, Brigadier B.N. Singh of the Assam Rifles confirmed that 2 men has been killed on 28 July 1987. He said that they have been part of an underground contingent who walked into an ambush laid by the Assam Rifles. He claimed that weapons were recovered from their dead bodies. He said the patrol commander reported to me that he had laid an ambush in the area of the Tri-Junction tracks joining of Thingba Khunau and track coming from Oinam to this track. He further stated that at about 2300 hours in July, 11 p.m. on 28 July 87, some underground walked into the ambush, and on challenging, they started running. On the second challenge to stop running, they continued running. The ambush party commander ordered opening of fire. After the ambush, the area was searched and 2 dead bodies were found lying at 2 different places. On the body of the people, grenades, ammunition, 2-inch mortar bombs, and weapons were recovered. But when cross-examined, he claimed that he could remember whether the 2 men killed in the ambush were indeed B. Sanglong and T.H. Wakau. B. Wa and P. L. Ring were also reportedly arrested on 10 July 1987, and L. Zamo on the 11 July 1987. They were shot 1 week later on the night of the 7-8 August. According to Assam Rifles, all 3 were killed in crossfire between the NSCN and the Assam Rifles. In this court testimonial, Brigadier B.N. Singh confirmed that 3 men he described as guides had been killed on 7-8 August 1987, but said they were shot dead by the NSCN. The 3rd incident took place in the areas of the Kongdai Kuman village during the night hours of the curfew period on the 8th August 1987. The people who had gone into the attack on Oinam Assam Rifles post along with the underground and had carried the weapons and ammunition and had assisted the underground in burning and caching. These people, after much motivation, persuasion, and payment of money, led the patrol to the caches. While short of the caches, this patrol was ambushed by the NSC, and the patrol commander assaulted the underground, firing their weapon. The leading guides faced the main brunt of the firing by the underground. In this NSCN ambush, 3 guides and 1 Jawan received bullet injuries, and these 3 guides were found dead. On cross-examination, Brigadier B.N. Singh confirmed that one of the 3 men was L. Zamo, but claimed he could not remember whether the other 2 were the B. Wa and P. L. Ring. His evidence was contradicted by villagers and their leaders who testified they were detained and tortured by the Assam Rifles well before The dead Mr. Dong and Oinam villagers wrote on 22nd July 1987 to the Chief Secretary Manipur that B. Sanglon, T.H. Wakau, P.L. Ring, and B. Wao were in custody of the Assam Rifles and had been severely tortured, and that he feared for their lives if medical attention was not immediately given. The torture meted out to the village authorities, GPs, and teachers are beyond description. Some of them practically cannot sit nor properly eat due to serious beatings. The seriously beaten persons and tortured, and their names are given below. P. Sanglong, son of late Pao Chairman, Village Authority. Number 2. S.P. Tenny, son of Ping Secretary, Village Authority. Number 3. T.H. Wakau, son of Thelang GB. Number 4. B. Wa, former school secretary, son of late Boang. Number 5. L. Relang, son of late Lani, Village Authority. K. Relang, son of late Kelang, student. Number 7. K.H. Sauthe, son of Ko. Number 8. P. Sosang, son of Rao Fing. Number 9. P.L. Ring, son of Long Ni, assistant teacher of Oinam Hill High School. While beating everyone in detention, the persons started above and their conditions are serious, and in the absence of medical treatment, I'm afraid they may succumb to the injuries and atrocities meted out to them. Underlying added. P. Sanglon's wife also testified to the court that she saw her husband in custody of Assam Rifle and that he had been tortured so badly he could hardly walk. When I met my husband in the Assam Rifles camp, I saw my husband seriously beaten, and there was even bleeding in the feet. He was in a condition which he could not move and could not stand due to the injuries received by him as a result of the assault. I saw bleeding injuries in the shin. The day following her visit, she reported that P. Sanglon was released and was brought home supported by 2 men, but the next day the Assam Rifles ordered him to go to the area where the villagers were being held together. According to his wife's testimonial, P. Sanglon was unable to go and move from the house. He was dragged by tying with rope on his wrist up to the place where people were kept in concentration. After that, my husband and Wakau, son of Thelong, were taken towards the path leading to Thingbakulen. After that, they did not come back home, and in that night when we slept, Assam Rifles called all the villagers, saying Sanglong and Mak W. Wakau had run away from the camp. After about 3 days, some villagers of Thingbakulen working as laborers at Oinam village reported us that 2 dead bodies were found lying on the road connecting Thingbakulen and Oinam. The Assam Rifles did not permit us to see those dead bodies. Afterwards, the dead bodies of my husband Sanglong and Wakau were brought later on to our village, and then I and some other villagers rushed to see the dead bodies, and there we came to know that the dead bodies were of my husband Sanglong and Wakau. There is sworn testimony that P.L. Ring was detained and tortured by the Assam Rifles until he was nearly dead before being shot. P.L. Ring's brother P.L. Kha, who lives in Oinam and teaches at Oinam High School, said, "My younger brother had been tortured intensely, was obvious by the torture marks on his face and the excruciating pain he was suffering from. I was made to witness another round of torture of my brother when he was beaten all over his body with rough wounds and then burned his face and lips with cigarette butt. LY23 Assam Rifles personnel. Lips with cigarette butts by 2-3 Assam Rifles personnel. As a result of it, he could not eat anything but took only liquids. Though his condition had become very critical, the Assam Rifles personnel shifted him to various camps, and that he was brought back again to Oinam camp. He was already in dying condition. My brother and Biwa had by this time become extremely weak physically, with many injuries all over their bodies, and were not able to sit by themselves. On August 7, 1987 night, both of them were taken away from Ngamzu for unknown destination because no villagers dared to venture out from their respective houses and see to which direction that both of them were taken. The villagers could hear the gunfires for some length of time from the forest side before dawn on August 8, 1987. On August 11, 1987, the Assam Rifles personnel announced that relatives of Sri B. L. Ring and B. Wa should accompany them to the Kongdais forest and identify whether the dead bodies of those who were shot in encounter were that of B. L. Ring and Sri B. Wa. The Assam Rifles versions of events were further contradicted by the eyewitness account of Mr. Simthing, a member of the Kongdai Kuman village authority who was the last witness to see B. L. Ring, L. Zamo, and Biwa minutes before their deaths. Mr. Something said he had been arrested and tortured himself on 11 July by the Assam Rifles. Released, he was re-arrested on 7th August and taken to the Assam Rifle camp set up at Kongdai Junior High School. There he said, I saw Mr. P. L. Ring, Mr. L. Zamo, and Mr. B. Wa following the Jawans with great difficulty. Unable to stand and walk properly, the Jawans dragging them as we walked. We were made to stop in a thick jungle, and after some rest, I saw the Jawans taking away Mr. P. L. Ring towards a little higher ground by using their torch lights. After about 6 to 7 minutes, I heard several rounds of gunshots accompanied with a cry from Mr. P. L. Ring. After a few minutes' silence, I saw the 5 Jawans returning to where we stood without Mr. P. L. Ring. I became very afraid. After some time, I saw 5 Jawans dragging away Mr. B. Wa towards where Mr. P. L. Ring was taken earlier. After some minutes, I heard several rounds of gunshots, and after some time, I saw the 5 Jawans returning to the place where we were standing without Mr. B. Wa or Mr. P. L. Ring. I became more afraid, thinking what would be my fate. I saw the 5 Jawans escorting Mr. L. Zamo, dragging away Mr. L. Zamo towards the place where the 2 villagers were taken earlier. After a few minutes, I heard several rounds of gunshots, and I saw the Jawans returning without Mr. L. Zamo or Mr. P. L. Ring or Mr. B. Wa. Mr. Something reported that he managed to escape from the soldiers and went into hiding. El Zamo, the 65-year-old headman of Kongdai Kuman, mentioned in the above testimony, had been arrested on 11 July 1987. The security forces claimed that he was also killed on 7 August in an encounter between the Assam Rifles and the NSCN. But a 16-year-old girl from Kongdai Kuman described how on 11 July, whilst he was, as ordered, preparing food for the Assam Rifles, the door of the head master's office was opened by the Jawan of the Assam Rifles. As we turned our heads in that direction, we saw and recognized the bodies of our village headman Jamo, H. Thungte, Simthing, and 3 other villagers laying on the floor of that room. Their bodies were all covered in blood, and they were groaning and writhing in pain and agony. We were terrified by the scene. Then we saw 5 men in olive green uniform being led into the room by the Jawans. Then the 5 men in olive green uniforms started showering and raining blows on our village elders, who cried out in pain. Mr. Wasingo El Zamo's son confirmed this in a sworn statement, testifying he personally saw his father being tortured by the Assam Rifles while detained at the school building. And El Zamo's nephew K. Khova described how he saw that his uncle on 7 August, the night of his death, was picked up from the midst of the whole villagers when everyone was kept in the village school building. He was led away after blindfolded, tied both his hands from backside, and I saw him beating all the way into the camp, temporarily staying in the village junior high school building. Both his legs were fractured after severe beating, and when approached to allow us to take him to the nearest hospital, we were beaten and driven from the room. I saw him removing to the jungle along with 2 villagers from Oinam, namely Sri P. Wa and Sri P. L. Ring. We heard the gunfires in midnight from the village paddy field side on that night. We were informed after a week to identify the dead body fully decomposed by the Assam Rifles personnel. In the jungle, we found my uncle's body highly decomposed, and we brought home his soulless body for funeral. The Assam Rifles had indirectly acknowledged responsibility for the unlawful killing of this 4 men by offering their relatives money as compensation, according to N.G. Lokha, a resident of Oinam, on 29 December 1987. Some of the Assam Rifles went to the families of those killed by the Assam Rifles consequent to 9 July 87 Oinam incident with rupees 3,000 and a blanket each. However, Mrs. T.H. Wakha with tears turned them away. That I also learned that families of B. Wa, P. L. Ring, and P. Sanglong also refused the offer. In her court testimony, as Khaila P. Sanglong's wife said, the Assam Rifles tried to pacify us. They, by giving money and clothes, apologized to me that my husband was murdered by them, and for that they requested me to take the money and clothes, but I refused to accept the money and clothes given to me by Assam Rifle. (2.3.5) Number 2. K. Sunai R. Khova M. Isau R. Matotmi P. Rankhiwa and N. Thava. A week later, 5 others were shot. It is not certain whether the killing took place on the night of 10/11 or 10/12 August 1987. They were K. Sunai, 65-year-old Gaunbura of Khomdai Kuman, R. Koba, 35-year-old Gaunbura of Khomdai Kuman, M. Isau, 32-year-old Gaunbura of the Khomdai Kuman, R. Matotmi Ngari Lisang Village Authority member, and P. Rankhiwo, headman of Ngari Lisang. N. Thawa, a 35-year-old member of the Khomdai Kuman village authorities, was shot on 15 August. K. Sunai, R. Khova, and M. Isau had all been arrested on 11 July, 1 month before their death. K. Sunai had been allowed to go back home but was re-arrested 5 days later. R. Mathotmi and P. Rankhiwo were arrested on 15 July. The Assam Rifles claim in court that the 5 men were NSCN guides and had been killed in crossfire between the Assam Rifles and the underground. Brigadier B.N. Singh described this. In this incident, again, people who had gone into the attack with the underground and who had carried the weapons from Oinam, Assam Rifles camp, and had assisted in hiding and caching the arms and ammunition along with the underground, when confronted with the knowledge and information of their activities and after persuasion and payment of money for the intelligence, a group of 8 people agreed to guide and lead the patrol column to the place where they had buried the weapons and ammunition. This patrol again walked into an ambush of the underground and were fired upon. The patrol assaulted the underground position in the firing by the NSA, and 5 guides were killed and 2 Jawans who were following behind them were wounded. As with the previous cases, Brigadier B.N. Singh could not in court remember the names of the 5 men killed in the encounter. When cross-examined, one Assam Rifles soldier acknowledged that 2 of the 5, Miss Isau and 2 of the 5, M. Isau and N. Thava, were detained previously by the Assam Rifles, but told villagers they had been released and that N. Thava had committed suicide. The villagers' evidence, however, contradicts this claim. In several sworn statements, villagers gave similar accounts of how the 5 men were arrested and tortured before being shot by the Assam Rifles. S. Kharamo, the son of K. Shunai, a village Gaunbura, described how his father was severely beaten and tortured. On one occasion, he was beaten to half dead when lying on the ground. He was stripped into full naked. His soft parts were smeared by chili. His pubic hair and armpit hair was burned by matches, fire, and also by a burning wood. I could hear the loud voices of cries, which were clearly the voices of my father and other village elders who were subjected to the same treatment by the security forces. That I saw my father being led into the jungle on the night of 10/8/87 along with other villagers. The whole villagers heard the gunfire near our paddy field after my father and others were led into the jungle. That the news of my father being shot in the jungle by the Assam Rifles personnel were passed on to the family and the villagers only on August 16th, 87. That we found his fully decomposed body in the jungle near Bridle Part on August 16th, 87 evening. The sworn statement by Mr. Simthing, member of Khomdei Kuman Village Authority, quoted from above under section 2.3.1 in connection with the killing of El Zamo, also described the arrest and torture of K. Sunai and of Har Khoba by the Assam Rifles on 11 July, the date he himself arrested. I saw the Assam Rifles personnel arresting number 1, Mr. K. Sunai, 65 years old, son of Khowa Kaunpura of Khondei village, Mr. El Zamo, Mr. R. Khowa, that the Assam Rifle personnel took us to Khondei Junior High School, which was used by the 21 Assam Rifle as their camp. That my hands were tied at the back, and I also saw the Assam Rifles personnel tying the hands of the 3 village elders. That we were put in a room, and the Assam Rifles personnel resorted to torturing by beating with lathi chains, boxing, while I was inquired by Assam Rifles personnel about the whereabouts of the Naga undergrounds. That when I regained my senses, I found myself lying naked on the floor along with Mr. El Zamo, Mr. K. Sunai, and Mr. R. Khowa. The Assam Rifles personnel tortured us the whole night, and I lost consciousness several times. And Sekho, the farmer from Khomdei Kuman, used as an interpreter by the Assam Rifles, whose testimony about torture is quoted in section 2.3.2, claimed in his court testimonial that he saw R. Khova and K. Sunai in such a serious condition as a result of torture that they could not sit properly. On the following day of 7th-8th August 1987, when I came to the school building at about 5-6 a.m. for doing the work of interpreter, I saw two Gaunburas, namely R. Khova and R. Sunai, in a serious condition and unable to sit even in the teacher's quarter in the school building. In court, N. Seko gave further indications that the two men had been tortured prior to death, claiming that when their dead bodies were brought back to the village, I saw gunshot injury on the private parts of R. Khova and cut injury on his neck just after the throat, and injury marks on hand and leg also, and on back and other parts of his body. On the dead body of K. Sunai, I saw gunshot injury on his chest and injury marks of beating throughout his body. P. Panit Phang, son of P. Rakhi Wo, headman of Ngari Lisang village, reported that his father, together with R. Mathotmi, a member of Ngari Lisang village authority, were reportedly kept by the Assam Rifles from 15th July onward and badly beaten. On 23rd July, P. Panit Phang and 3 other men were ordered to escort P. Rankhiwo and P. Mathotmi to Khongdei Kuman, as the 2 men were too weak to walk. P. Panit Phang stayed at Khongdei Kuman until 6 August, and in that period he saw his father beaten 3 times. On 15 August, he was ordered to return to Khongdei Kuman. That evening, he, along with other villagers, were taken into the jungle by the army officer and the officer in command of the Tatubi police station. "1 kilometer from the camp," he said, they found 5 bodies in a row, identifying one of them, that of his father, by his clothes. He had been shot in the head. The fact that the army officers seemed to know which relatives to call for identification suggests the army knew the identification of the victims, a fact that might not have known if indeed the 5 men had been killed in crossfire, as the Assam Rifles claim. Furthermore, eyewitnesses have given statement testifying to the fact that K. Sunai, R. Khova, P. Rankhiwo, and R. Mathotmi were in fact prisoners of the Assam Rifle when they were shot. Lastly, the post-mortem report showed that K. Sunai, R. Khova, R. Mathotmi were all shot in the back. R. Mathotmi's post-mortem report is the only one showing an injury to the right elbow. The cause of the injury, described as a laceration 8 cm by 6 cm extending to the depth of the muscle, is not explained in the post-mortem report. It could be the result of an exiting bullet striking the elbow, or alternatively be the result of beating. There is also evidence that the Assam Rifles detained and tortured M. Isau and N. Thaba and killed them in custody. N. Thaba, a member of Khongdei Kuman village authority, was reportedly arrested on 11 July 1987. He died on 15 August. In court, the Assam Rifles initially claimed that N. Thaba had hung himself on 15 August. However, in his court testimony in March 1989, Brigadier B. N. Singh himself doubted the suicide claim, stating that nobody told me that it was a suicide case. It may not have been a suicide case. Thus, the official cause of death is unclear. The court testimony of N. Silas, the brother of N. Thaba, and 2 affidavits from other villagers thrown further doubt on suicide claim. In court, N. Silla said that N. Thaba was first detained. He saw how the Assam Rifles hung his brother up by his hands. When N. Thaba returned home, N. Silla said that he and his family could see several injury marks on his body. My sister reported to me that the Assam Rifles refused to feed my brother with the food brought by us from our home. She also told me that my elder brother was kept in hanging by the hands inside the youth hall. When I looked into the youth hall from outside, I saw the condition of my elder brother, that he was hanging by hands. At about 12 midnight, my said elder brother came back to our house saying that at about midnight they had been allowed to go to their respective house. When my elder brother came back to our house, he was not able to stand properly. We saw injury marks on backside and thigh, backside of the buttock and back shoulder. We also saw black blood clot on those spots. He told me that those were the marks of injuries caused as a result of assault to him by the Assam Rifles. My brother told me that no reason was given by the Assam Rifles for assaulting him. N. Thaba was apparently rearrested twice and detained for the third time in the school office along with M. Isau. When N. Silas brought food to them, he testified, I saw the Assam Rifles taking two persons, namely N. Thaba, son of Namo, and M. Isau, son of Modai, inside the school office when I was giving food to my brother and M. Isau. I found them without any shirt. I found my brother and Isau sitting inside the room, and my brother told me that they were very weak and tired after being beaten very badly. And Silas says that he was told the following day by an Assam Rifle sentry that his brother and M. Isau had been released. However, his brother never returned home. M. Silas was one of the 11 villagers who, a week later on 15 August, was requested by the police to identify and carry back 5 dead bodies found in the jungle. He identified 3 of them as M. Isau, K. Sunai, and R. Koba. On 16th August, he was again chosen to go into the jungle and identify another dead body. He discovered it was that of his brother and Thaba hanging from a tree. He reported that the feet of the body was touching the ground, which he thought suggested the Assam Rifle had hung his brother by the neck rather than that his brother had committed suicide, as the Assam Rifles claim. In court, N. Silas testified. On the following day in the morning, the Assam Rifles asked us to go to Khongdei Kuman for carrying things as porter. I was one of the 16 villagers. After reaching Khongdei Kuman, the police who were already there asked 3 of the villagers to go to the jungle to identify some dead bodies. I was one of the 3 villagers who were to go to the jungle. In the jungle, we saw the dead body of elder brother and Thaba hanging from a tree by neck with a piece of cloth, which was a tablecloth of the school. The dead body of my brother was highly decomposed. The hairs from his head were missing. The 2 eyeballs and the tongue were also missing from the dead body. And the feet of the dead were touching the ground. There were maggots all over the body. The postmortem report concludes that death was due to asphyxia resulting from hanging, suicidal in nature, although the report does not substantiate this conclusion by reference to a full examination of the scene of death. Other witnesses have also testified that N. Thaba and M. Isau had been detained by the Assam Rifles before their death. N. Silas, a resident of Khongdei Simpung, C. M. that he saw the decomposed body of M. Isau with hands tied and blindfolded. If, as the Assam Rifles claim, M. Isau has been guiding them to the stolen weapons when he was shot by the NSCN, it is improbable that he could have done so blindfolded. I saw the decomposed body of Isau lying on one side and his hands tied on behind with rope, and his eyes were blindfolded with a piece of cloth, and his bodies were about 4 to 5 bullet marks on the chest. The circumstances in which Mr. Sosang, Mr. Seva, Mr. Loko, and Mr. Sangdua died are far less clear than those of the 11 men described above, whom Amnesty International believed to have been extrajudicially executed by the Assam Rifles. But there is some evidence suggesting torture and extrajudicial execution. This is set out in Appendix 3. So I will end the reading now, and then plan for the next reading starting from section 3, which is on page 43, the government response. Thank you for listening.